guys.
Hey guys.
We're back with another Penny Dreadful review, this time reviewing Penny Dreadful Season 3, Episode 2, titled Predators Near and Far. If you haven't seen it yet and you want to avoid any spoilers, skip this video and come back later because everything we say from this point forward is going to be a spoiler. Predators Near and Far will go down, in my opinion, as one of the best episodes in the entire series, and that's because it feels more like, episode 1B of Season 3. Like, if you went back and watched the Season 3 premiere after watching this second episode, the premiere would be even better.
Yeah, and this felt like a continuation of that episode as opposed to another, its own separate episode. They worked so well together.
Like, I would actually recommend going back and watching the premiere and then episode 2 and looking at the premiere in the context of episode 2. Because, like, in the premiere, we talked about how, man, that Dr. Sweet, I don't really trust that guy. He seems a little too friendly toward Vanessa. And then about halfway through episode 2, we're like, you know what, I kind of like Dr. Sweet. He seems like an alright guy. And then at the end, you find out he's Dracula. And it's like, oh my, all of that together, I think if you watch 1 and then 2 immediately, like, back to back, it feels like one big long episode.
Yeah, it would feel like like they did a special premiere 2-hour episode.
Yeah.
That's what it would feel like if you watch these back to back. They feel like the same episode.
Which I really appreciate. That doesn't happen a whole lot in TV.
No.
And they executed it really, really well.
Yeah, it kind of almost, like, draws you in even more and solidifies the fact that you are going to watch this all the way through. It's just, I don't know, it worked really, really well.
And in looking at the premiere in the context of episode 2, when Dr. Seward tells Vanessa, go do something that you've never done before, and she goes to the museum, it makes you wonder, was there some kind of supernatural motivation pulling her toward the museum?
Yeah.
Because, episode 1 on its own, she decided to go to the museum.
Yeah.
But no, in the context of episode 2, there might have been something more there, and it might have been very sinister.
Yeah, I mean, it cannot be a coincidence that she decided to go to the museum and become friends with Dr. Sweet. There's definitely something there. And Dr. Sweet and his can't remember her name. Oh my gosh.
You can totally remember her name.
He knows who she is, but I totally didn't get that sense.
Yeah. Like, he seems like he might just be kind of this aloof kind of guy who doesn't remember names.
Yep.
But he's genuinely a good dude who's interested in her, but he's freaking Dracula and he's obsessed with her.
Yeah, like, people who, like, he could be somebody who's just insanely smart, and people who are insanely smart, like, they've got so much information in their brain, sometimes the simple things are what they forget, such as names. So, like, he did such a good job. Like, I had no idea that he was Dracula. Didn't even suspect it a little bit.
One of my coworkers, Natalie, she totally called it. She's like, I guarantee you the curator is Dracula. And I was like, no, no way. He's not Dracula. Oh, Natalie, you were right. You got me on that one. He totally was. All right, the opening scene in episode 2 was amazing. Like, the one thing that I thought episode 1 was lacking was Lily.
Yeah.
And she came out strong in episode 2.
Yes.
That scene, it was gory and brutal and amazing in every way.
And I think that kind of helps make it feel like 1B and one long premiere episode as opposed to 2 episodes, is we didn't have Lily or Dorian in episode 1 in the premiere, and we had them here, so it was almost like, and they were right at the beginning, so it was like the halfway mark, where the episode's half over is where they make their entrance, so it also helped make the flow.
And that scene was crazy. Like, they're going to basically like a snuff show, pretty much, and all these like rich freaking psychos are going to watch this pretty young girl be brutally murdered by this masked S&M freaking giant. And it seems like at first I'm like, all right, this could be something that Dorian would get into.
Yeah,
And
Dorian's
like,
weird like that.
and like
so.
maybe he's bringing Lily there for the first time, and he's like, "Hey, look at this thing. This is awful. Let's enjoy it together." But no, they go in there and they kill everyone.
Yeah, and what gets me is, like, at the end of the episode, Lily tells Dr. Frankenstein, "You won't like what I've become or what I'm becoming," but it almost seems like it was her idea to rescue the girl.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that girl was her. That's what she went through until, circumstances and fate took her out of that life and put her in the life she's in right now. So it seems like she might be trying to rescue people who are in bad situations, such as young girls who are forced into prostitution and such.
And not only rescue them, but seize vengeance for
Yeah.
them. Like at the end of last season, it really seemed like Lily and Dorian were kind of bent on world domination.
Yeah.
Like that was the vibe I got. But this season, it feels like they're sort of anti-heroes, which I really like. Because I could see the direction of their story going. Like if things get really bad with Dracula, I could see Lily and Dorian being forced to work with the rest of the gang to combat this other evil.
Yeah, and being willing to, even though, they might not want to work with them, but they might have to, and they might want to in order to get rid of Dracula. So it's like she's telling Dr. Frankenstein, you wouldn't like what I'm becoming, but she's really not doing much different than what him and his group are doing. Except theirs has a supernatural bent, and hers is just vengeance for these poor people who can't help themselves.
'Cause it looks like the people Dracula hunts are the disenfranchised, the weak, the poor, the people Lily seems like she would sympathize with.
And is trying to save.
Yeah, so I could totally see her going, all right, this is a threat to my people, I'm going to go after him.
Yes.
Also in this episode, Vanessa confesses her story to Dr. Seward. And Renfield, at the end of the episode, tells Dracula that he doesn't think that Dr. Seward believed the story. But just Dr. Seward's reaction, I don't really know if she believed her or not. She might just sympathize with this broken person and be going, oh my god, how do I help this person? Or she might be all in and believe her.
Yeah, I'm kind of torn on that too. Like, she did seem like she believed her at the end of their session, but then, he tells Dracula that she didn't. But he wouldn't really know unless she said it to him, and he listened to the recording prior to, conveying that information to Dracula. So maybe he didn't believe it and just assumed that she doesn't either.
Yeah. Because doctor-patient confidentiality seems like it's really important to Dr. Seward, because she tells Vanessa, this is for my ears only. So Renfield's not going to get any insight into this. Dr. Seward is not going to confide in him at all onto this stuff. So that might just be his own conclusion, like you said.
Yeah, he might just think that, no, this is way too far out. Like, I know her, and I just don't see her believing this.
Also, Ethan, in this episode, he gives us our second massacre of this episode in a great scene at the saloon, and he tells the Native American woman, she's like, what can I do for you? He's like, the only thing you can do for me is get out of here right now. Because he knows he is about to turn, and it's going to get really gory and really brutal.
Yes.
And during that massacre, Hecate pops up.
Yes, I want to know, I think she's kind of taken a liking to Ethan, but I want to know what her end game is, because she's following him, but she hasn't really done much for him. And she could have saved him at any point, but she hasn't. She's just following and watching until right now.
Yeah, and I don't really think he needed her help in that moment.
Oh, gosh,
she
no.
just chose that moment
To reveal herself.
Yeah. And like you said, what is her end game? Because she has this kind of obsession with him.
Yeah. So I'm curious what's going on with her and what she's doing following him.
Yeah. We get a pretty interesting scene with Dr. Jekyll and Frankenstein at the insane asylum / prison penitentiary. It's kind of like the Penny Dreadful's version of Arkham Asylum. Is really how I picture it. Frankenstein asks Dr. Jekyll to show him what he can do, what his treatment is, and so they get like the craziest crazy dude they can find, and Jekyll shoots him up and totally calms him down. And I'm like, man, it's like a reverse Hyde formula.
Yeah, which obviously he's experimenting on these inmates, so we don't know like which version of this formula has he gotten to. Is he still trying to improve it? He has hinted that he takes the formula. He did say he's giving himself something to calm or to put the madness and the anger aside. So that makes me think that he's also taking these. So I imagine he's improving them as he goes, or trying to improve them as he goes, and I think this is what's going to lead to this anti-Hyde formula becoming the Hyde formula. And
like, I don't think he has the Hyde formula yet.
This episode makes me think he doesn't.
Dr. Jekyll has ever become Mr. Hyde.
Yeah.
And I think during the course of his experiments, something's going to go wrong, and that's where the Hyde formula
like a new formula, he tries to inject it, and the patient does something like moves or whatever, and he gets himself instead.
I could see him totally experimenting on himself, though.
Yeah, he does seem that dedicated.
He seems like the kind of guy who'd be like, well, somebody's got to do it, and turning himself into Mr.
So maybe
Hyde.
he loses his prison gig and has to start experimenting on himself.
That could be it,
Yeah.
Okay, I'm pretty sure that's everything we had to talk about in this episode. I would highly recommend going back and watching the premiere and episode 2 back to back, because it's an entirely different experience doing that.
Yeah.
If you noticed anything in either episode that we missed, let us know down in the comments. We would love to hear it. Also, if you enjoyed this review, tell us by dropping a like on it and subscribe for more reviews.
And thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.